In the hobby right now, Japanese games definitely are very, very popular. They are charming. They bring interesting twists that Western designer don't usually try. Asian designers are experimenting and have a different type of creativity that we are not used to. And many people are attracted by this exotic twist, exotic flavor that you find. Additionally, they come about with beautiful artwork and components that enhance the overall experience. So when I was given the opportunity to review Desolito, I was extremely thrilled. This game is brought by Sui Work, I hope I'm pronouncing it correct, which is a small publisher in Japan. I would say every year releases one Kickstarter and deliver it very punctual with high quality components and a beautiful artwork. You can see an example. So when I had this in my hand, there's all the charm of the most known Japanese games with the quality of the components, with the beautiful art. And so the only thing missing was to open the box and look at the rule book. The Solito is a time game for 2 to 4 players. There is also a solo variant, which I haven't not explored. I'm not going to talk about in this video. What you're going to do, you're going to draft the tiles and you're going to place them around your board. You will travel around this board to complete the objectives that you can see here, common objectives. And once the board is filled, the game is ended. Whoever the highest score will win the game. This is really a very simple tile laying game with a small twist, and we're going to discuss about right now. To set up the game, you give a board to each player, a plan board to each player, and each player receive a city or tile. This tile have a star, that's the one recommended for your first game. It also has a backside, and these are all different. What you're gonna do, you're gonna align the 2 arrows together, and then you're gonna give to each player the corresponding player tokens, which is one worker, which is gonna position to the circle, and then you have these scoring tokens that will be utilized at the end of the game. Then for each of the monuments, you select one communal objective. You put a corresponding token equal to the number of players. You place the scoring board aside just to remind everyone how you score. And all the tiles that you get in the game will go into this bag, and you are ready to go. The game is played in 4 rounds. Each round, you're going to have a planning phase, a placement phase, and a check phase. All these phases can be done simultaneously. That's actually how I suggest to do it. For the planning phase, each player is going to draw 5 tiles from a cloth bag, a very nice cloth bag over here. And so let's say here we have 3 players. So each player will draw 5 tiles. After drawing the 5 tiles from the bag, each player will draft 1 tile from the opponent to the left. So let's say we have the gray player will select 1 tile from the opponent to the left. For example, we'll take this tile and we'll place it on the bottom part of this planning phase from 1 to 4. These are essentially the tiles that you're going to place it. You're going to select them in reverse order, meaning that the first tile that you pick is going to be in position number 4, which will be the last tile that you're going to place for the round. The first tile you're going to place in the round will be at number 1. So this gray player has selected this tile from the left. Simultaneously, the pink player is selecting one of these tiles from the left. So for example, we'll pick this one. And the yellow player from the left will be, for example, take this one. Now, the drafting will be on the opponent to the right. So the gray player now this time will pick 1 tile from the right. For example, we'll pick this and place it here. This one will select it from the right. So we'll pick, for example, this one here, and the yellow from the right, and we'll get this one here. And repeats once again. So now you draft another tile from the left, and then you're going to select another tile from the right until you have selected all 4 tiles. Whatever is left is going to go back to the bag, and now you're ready to go to the next phase, which is the placement phase. During the placement phase, you have the option to perform 2 actions. One is move your worker token, which is optional, and place a tile which is mandatory. During the movement phase, you can move your worker in two different ways. You can move it by foot, and if you move by foot, the worker can be moved only by one space. Each corner here, intersection, is count to one space. So for example, I could take this worker and move it here. As I said, this is an optional phase. You don't have to do it. There are no restrictions on how the worker can move, except when you are at the periphery of the board, you cannot move your worker from this location to a location or a corner where there's only one tile accessible to the worker. So this movement from here to here will be illegal. Another way you can move your worker is using the tram. As you observe here, the tiles have some lines which represent the tram line that the city is having. So the worker can use the tram. When you use the tram, you follow the line and you stop at any corner that you desire, with some rules for that. For example, this worker will be able to move from this location down to this one following this tram path. The worker cannot go back and forth on the same tram line, and the worker cannot perform a tram action where the line that he performs or the route that he takes is a line with two adjacent corners. For example, if I was here, I won't be able to arrive over here, because to get there, I should do this turn here and move in this direction, meaning that I will start from this corner. I will have to pass this corner, which is adjacent to where I started, and then go to there. So the only rules here, you cannot take a tram where you intercepted two adjacent corners, like in this case. Other than that, you are able to follow any route. So don't go back and forth. So you cannot utilize the route twice in both directions, and you cannot utilize a route that intercepts two corners adjacent to each other. So after taking the optional movement action, you go and place your tile, which is a mandatory action. You will start with the tile at the lowest number here on your plan board, and you place it anywhere around your worker. The tile have to fit the recessed border, which is very nice. So you can place it, for example, like this if you desire. The tile cannot be placed in this way. And also, if you already have a tile, you cannot place a tile on top of that. We said there are 4 rounds. You select 4 tiles, that's 16 tiles. Your board is constituted by 16 spots. Essentially, when you fill up the board, the game will end. So that's very simple to understand. So after you select a tile, you go back to the movement phase if you want. So you can, for example, move on in this direction. Take the tile number 2, place it, for example, like this. Then you may take the tram as a movement action and that in here. If you wish, select here, and then finally you can do this. Speaking of the tiles have 5 different icons. You have the monument, you have the field, you have the office, you have the park, and you have the houses. These are icons that will allow you to score points at the end of the game. After you place the 4 tiles, you go and check if you have accomplished any of the public goals. There are several public goals. For each different token, you have different cards with different goals. So this is one of them, but for the same token, you have different ones, and you have 4 different buildings. If you achieve that, you take it and you place it on the board to say that you achieve it. The public goal can be achieved only once by each player, and there is 1 achievable per player. After that, you start again, you draw the 5 tiles, you draft them 4, and you place them, and you repeat this for 4 rounds. And after that, you go and proceed with scoring. In the case that you have a tile you cannot allocate, you will be forced to take a penalty token, which at the end of the game will cause you negative points. Before we go to scoring, we need to talk about zone or areas. When you place the tiles, you're gonna create areas based on the tram lines and the perimeter of the city. If we take a look, for example, to this section here, and you follow this line, this tram line is here, then is connected to here, Then this one gets to connected to there, and then it goes here, connected to here, and ends up back to this corner here. So there you have this area here. I wish there were strings or something to indicate it better. It represents a zone. And that is the zone that when you see public goals, this is the zone that games talks about. And also those zones are those that you will utilize to count your final victory points. The zone is actually a little bit tricky to identify because of you need to imagine the line of connection between here and this point, for example. For example, if you have this tram line, this is not connected to anything. So it's a little bit confusing where the zone here. For example, if you look at this one, this tram line goes here at the corner. So eventually we'll touch this. You go here. If you go to the left, this is actually not connected to anything. So it's open ended. But if you go to the right and it's up in the perimeter, that's okay. The perimeter is kind of enclosing the zone. Then you go here, ends up here, and then you close. So you have this big zone over here. As I said, to count the public goal, there are 2 or more areas containing 3 or more types of icons. That's what it means. You count the zone, you count the type of icons. If you have a 3 or more type, you will get this build. And now we go to scoring. After the 4 rounds, you will check all your zones and you will count how many icons you have. Hopefully you have a very big number. For example, you have a high number of zone and then the type of numbers. So the scoring essentially rewards you. The more icon you have of the same type will grant you higher scoring. As you see here, if you have a big area with 3 or plus icon, which is quite easy, you don't score much points. Let's see an example of scoring. We just select this area here. So we have this zone over here, and this zone has 3 icons, and they're all of the same type. So you look at here, 3 icons, only one type, 3 victory points. If we go back to the area that we indicated before, so this one over here, it goes like this. You have 1 icon, 2, 3, 4, 5 icons. You have 5 icons, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different types. Of 3 for more than 3, so 5. You will get 1 victory point. This is a random setup. Obviously, it's not going to score very much, but I hope you have the feeling. So, as I said, I wish I had strings to assign and recognize the zone. Each player is given some number tokens to essentially help you count the zone. So if you find this is zone number 1, so I already scored it. This is zone number 2, I already scored. For example, let's see if there's another zone here. So the C, so it's connected to here, here. So it closed up this one. So there's another zone over here. So I will put number 3 and so on and so forth. As you see also from the scoring condition, if you have a zone with less than 2 icons, they will not give you any points. So there's no point really to find a small zone and try to score them only with 3 icons and more. You score the points of your zone, you score the points of the buildings, eventually negative points if you were not able to place a tile, and you sum them up, and who has the most points is the winner. After reading the rulebook, my first impression was, that's it. That's the really easy, very simple, very fast teaching the rule, a very straightforward rule set. And we play it, and it is extremely simple in terms of rules. The movement is very straightforward. The drafting is easy. You try to get the objective and you place the tile at the center. One difficulty that I probably already spotted is counting the zones and visualizing which zone you are building it is definitely a struggle for the first time. I fortunately was able to pick it up quite rapidly, but I also struggled a little bit when executing. There were many players at the table that the first games were really struggling to understand how the zoning is and how to visualize it. And at the end of the game, counting it. Because yes, you get those tokens, but it's not that straightforward which zone you are counting are helpful. I would say 50%. They're not perfectly helpful. Really would be nice to have a string around or have small rectangular pieces to sign, make the perimeter of the zone you're counting. And after the first game, which went very quick, the box says between 30 to 60 minutes. It was about in the 30 minutes because drafting is so fast. Placing is also very fast. The game was over. Everyone was left like something is missing. There's some oomph missing because everything in this game seems like it should work. It should be engaging. We like tile placement games. There are many tile placement games that are with very simple rule set and yet engaging. And this one seemed to be one of them. The walking the work there. It's an interesting puzzle because you need to be careful. You can get stuck and you can get the negative points if you don't plan ahead. The reverse drafting and placement, it may seem interesting, but it's a problem that is actually don't exist because at the end of there is definitely some planning that you want to do, but I didn't feel like so punishing and so difficult to achieve. But yet, the first experience was like, this game is missing something. I don't understand what is missing. So then we opened the expansion, the seasoning expansion. What does the expansion bring? So let's take a look. The citizen expansion comes with citizen cards. You have the judge, architect, farmer, police, and for each citizen, you have different characters with different scoring conditions. These four, the politician, civil servant, judge, and shop clerk, are the citizen cards that are recommended for your first game. Together with the cards, you will receive the corresponding tokens for each of the citizen, and you have way more than that. To set up the game with the citizen expansion, what you do is select 4 citizen cards, you take all the corresponding tokens, you put in the citizen bag. This time I have a pink colors. You give a nice shake and you are ready to go. How does the game changes compared to the regular game of Desolito? During the planning phase, when a player draws the 5 tiles, he will also draw 5 citizen tokens from the pink bag and assign them randomly to each tile. You will place it on top of it. When players draft the tiles, they will also take the citizen token associated with it and place it beside their board. What do the citizen token do? Well, they do different things. You have a citizen token that will score you points at the end of the game. For example, the politician. Based on the number of politicians that you get, you will score different points. But you also have citizen token that will allow you to modify your board or you're counting the icons before scoring. For example, the judge, you will have to discard 2 judges tokens, so you have accumulated to count one less icon. Why you say, why you want to count one less icon? Well, remember, the less icon that you have or the less type of icon that you have, you get higher points. So essentially, if you have 3 type of icons and you decrease, you ignore 1, you now have 6 with only 2 types, per example. So for 1 point, you will go to 6 points. Another citizen, for example, will help you with the placement phase. This one will help you to do an additional movement, which can be very handy. This one, if you discard 2, you can swap the tiles in your plan phase, which you can also very useful. And there are many others, and I'll let you explore by yourself. Once we introduce the citizen expansion, this game really brights up. It brings another level of interaction and manipulation that made the game easier to some extent in terms of achieve the goals, but definitely were more pleasant. You have a wider selection of decisions, which is not overwhelming even for new players or new people to the hobby. So from now on, I will always play with citizen expansion. It gives you variety because not only do you have a determined number of citizens, but each citizen comes with different cards and so different powers. There is the architect that gives you an additional monuments that you can have during the game. So to wrap up, this game overall is very pleasant, it's very functional, but I can find a small negatives. Definitely the scoring part. The scoring is difficult to do. It's difficult to identify the zoning. So this is something that you need to experience by yourself and develop a feeling and understanding by playing it. Also, I feel that the values of the common goals, it doesn't feel too rewarding. The difference is 1 point. They are very easy to achieve. And also don't understand why you check for those communal points every time at the end of the round. You can also just check at the end of the game because there's not really a competition. Everyone can achieve that at once only. So there's no rush to complete it and so to grab the token and place on the board. If there were a limited number relatively to the number of players, I understand this check at the end of the round, but I don't understand why just not go and check at the end of the game. I guess for an aesthetic point of view, so you have the token already on your board. So that could be that. And then definitely it's a game that shines if you have the citizen. So if you back this game and you don't have the citizen and you feel this game is lacking, perhaps it's time to find this expansion and add to the game because definitely change the feeling, change the replay value. And this is definitely a game that can be introduced to anyone. This is an introductory level game for time placement game. And then perhaps after this, you can step up with, for example, Calico, a little bit more challenging. The beautiful look and art and components definitely help. And so this is how you play Desolito. This is the expansion Citizen. And if you made it so far, please don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share with your friends. You know the drill. This is not your first YouTube video, am I right? Thank you very much and see you next time. Ciao.